Everything is personal right here. Everything is personal right here.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Everything is Personal. Our guest today is Austin Davis. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks.
Great. Uh, I wanted to ask you about your personal story behind My Kid, My Crisis. Uh, what pushed you to write this book?
Hmm. Uh, the original title came from I left the first sonogram with my wife and kiddo. So about 13 years ago, I I go, holy crap, I'm going to be a dad. And so immediately that kind of thought just popped into my mind. That kind of it was sort of a sort of a micro crisis. For me, is like I go from this bachelor to a married guy and now to a dad. And at the time, I was working with a 30s, 40s, men in treatment in the worst parts of their life, right? So that was kind of the origin. It sat in the back of my brain for almost 10 years of, man, I got to write that book. And when I started writing, I just started writing other people's crisis that I've seen in the clinical world over the last 15 years or so. And so it's just kind of that little bit of a educational book on not to be too wordy on the clinical stuff, and just give parents and other folks dealing with life kind of a window to see inside.
So, where do you think our mental health system is falling short, especially when it comes to teens and their families?
I think it's just a lack of resources, all the way around. Uh, it's just finding resources. I got a wait list of kids, and the reason why I can't admit those kids is staff, and just recruiting, and making it work for everybody.
Um, let's start go back a little bit and talk about you started talking about a little bit about your own like origin story. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Saginaw, Texas, just a little suburb north of downtown Fort Worth.
Got it. And were your parents together? Do you have siblings? How was it growing up?
Yes, yeah. So growing up was interesting. Parents divorced when I was about fifth grade, around 10 years old. I had a little brother. I was 3 years younger, and we were best of friends. And one summer we bought motorcycles. I was a senior in college. He was joining me at the same university, and he passed away on a motorcycle that year. So he was 18, I was 21. And, last thing I said to him, slapped him on the helmet and said, I love you, be careful. We went our separate ways last time I talked to him.
Wow. Hold on,
Yeah.
one second. I'm starting trying to fix. There's still something going on with my sound. I'm just getting some static. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Cool. We'll edit that out. So growing up, were you into sports? Were you in the school? Were you like into music, or what were some of your interests?
Yeah, probably sort of that all-American kid, I guess. Oldest, obviously. And I found baseball early on, 7, 8, 9 years old. Nolan Ryan was, pitching in Texas from the Astros and the Rangers, and was just my hero. And so I pitched, played all the way all across the state, um, and then found basketball kind of in the middle school, high school years. And so kind of a two-sport athlete, loved it. Coulda, woulda, shoulda, played in college and all of those things, but just didn't.
Got it.
So yeah, music kind of happened later in life for me, as you're not playing hundreds of hours of ball a week and stuff. So my roommate in college had a guitar, and picked that up, and so that was been the latter half of life.
Gave an outlet. Um, was there a moment in your own journey as a parent that sort of, how do I say this? Maybe broke something open in you and challenged how you approach this type of work?
I think that's where the title of the book came, right? It was a major paradigm shift, and um, uh, the way I drove, the way I encountered people. My wife's in the car, and it's not just her anymore. There's a baby there, and so it just an overall awareness of the impact. And I think what it does is it now helping teenagers. Um, you kind of see and think about families differently, like when you have kids. So there's a paradigm shift of, I tell our people when we train, like, we're asking families to give us the two most important things in their life. That's their kid and their money. There's probably not anything else higher than those two things when we're asking people to commit their kid to a facility for 90 days.
You talked about lack of resources. So let's say in an ideal situation, you're getting resources. What are those resources? What do you do with those resources that right now may be a gap?
It's people, it's training, and it's development of people. We have psychology in terms of education. I think has had sort of maybe a hockey stick kind of growth in the last maybe 2 decades. And there's people, but for every therapist, there's 100 clients that need help. And so, in order to do good quality care, that those unlimited resources would be just hiring and training and developing, and because the more adequate people are trained in facilities or staffed, the better outcomes you have. Um, get better, people get better, families get better.
And do you see over the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, do you see an increase in mental health challenges and then in turn substance abuse in teens, or is it sort of flatline?
No, it's definitely, since 2020, there has been that exponential kind of growth, and I think we're finally seeing some of the suicide rates level back to where kind of 2019 numbers were. So there was that definite increase, and so now they're subsiding in some ways. But I think when you have more clinicians out of the universities and into licensing agencies and things like that, you're going to have more diagnoses as a byproduct, right? So um, I think yes, and so the numbers in some ways have grown, but I think we've always had it. I don't think society has materially changed. We're just have more clinicians and more data to say, yeah, we have sicker people.
So maybe if I were to reframe that, you've always had the issues with mental health challenges, but like my generation, I'm in my mid 50s. There were no health challenges. I'm not feeling, you don't feel like going to bed. My dad would pour cold water on me and hey, get the fuck up and go to school. Nobody gave a shit about that. Now, you know, this is not coming from somebody it's from the outside. So that's why I wanted to kind of ask you. It seems like there's a pendulum shift, right? Somebody stubs their toe. Oh my God, they're out for 2 weeks. My kid. So we need to get back to some sort of, baseline middle ground. But is it that we've gotten too sensitive and over analyzing, or COVID, social media, a lot of these different things that happen sort of put a spotlight on it? I just want to kind of get your inside opinion.
I think you nailed the imagery on the head as the pendulum swung way too far, right? I think there was a need for some resources, but we're overdiagnosing and overtreating, and really what kids need to hear is like, no, like parents need to have the backbone and the skills and ability, and not fear, CPS showing up their door. Like we have, that's where a lot of that stuff kind of gets overbearing, and I can go on a long soapbox on that. But yeah, I think parents have let the leash out way too far, and the consequences, sort of from our generation, are way different, just way different with legal system and fentanyl and some of the higher exposure to different drugs and things like that. So yeah, I think we were in a really different world, um, and at the same time, kids are still kids and they need boundaries and expectations and somebody to not hold their hand maybe, but to push them along their journey a little bit better.
So, I mean, I grew up in Philly. I live in LA now, and I was talking to somebody about how many people in my life I've lost to overdose, more or less
Mhm.
opioid related stuff. Most of them not as kids, as like really young adults. Never thought that they had any issues other than they were just partying too much and took too much of something. But now going back and analyzing and looking back, I'm like, yeah, I remember this dude was sad a lot, and he was only happy when he was like, doing MDMA or something like that. Now I'm sure then his endogenous serotonin levels were in there, and he needed, this kind of thing. So as I look back, I see that. But nowadays, it's just like my daughter goes to Berkeley, and I see these constant demonstrations and encampments and all these other things and yelling and screaming. And it seems to me that there's a missing piece in this thread of community, right? They don't have community. So they're playing
Yeah.
video games. They're doing, they were stuck at home during COVID. They found a community, and it doesn't matter what the community stands for. It's just giving them that peace of mind. And then I
Yeah.
see, people, these kids still going through some challenges, even though they have them when they come back on their own. So do you see that there's a societal kind of shift in supporting this as well?
The part of the community lack of,
The lack
is
of
that what you mean?
community, a lack of community, and then
Yeah.
get out there and just be friends with any. It doesn't matter. Just be friends with anybody because we want. It
Yeah.
just like, and I'll tell you a personal story that just happened, a few weeks ago. But I wanted to get your answer first before I give you my story.
I think community is huge. It's the thing that we preach and teach every single day. I did a 2-hour alumni Zoom call with almost 30 or 40 of our parents yesterday, just so that we can keep them together. Um, yeah, I think the essence of relationships have been watered down through social media, right? And so you can find your very tiny niche, and you only talk that same language, and you only do the same things, and this kind of alienates the people who are only 3 degrees different than you, and so that just exacerbates the mental health issues, kids in school or adults. Um, yeah, so I think we're slowly um, unlearning our key human desire, and that's connection. And so we're just hitting the button on the dopamine iPhone or whatever, and not really getting true interaction and things like that.
I have one more follow up question. I think there's a sense of maybe lack of trust that happens with kids. Like I don't know. So once again, I'm using me as an example because my friend referenced rather than my daughter. I'm a latchkey kid, right? So I go out and play, ride bikes,
Yeah.
and play hockey on the street. Cars coming, just be home when the lights are on, kind of thing. My daughter who's
Yep.
20 now, there's not what are you talking? Everything is organized. There's no go out and ride bikes with your friends. It's all structured in a way. So we hovered over our kids in a certain way. So we're partially accountable for that, but also what happens between them, like even some of the apps that they use, the messages disappear. God forbid the parents hear it. Like we didn't have that. If we were on the phone, hey mom, I'm on the phone, hang up kind of thing. We don't have that. So
Yeah.
there's a lack of communication with our kids. They're telling us what we want to hear, but do we really know what's going on? And how can we get this communication, that's trust back in place with our kids?
Huge. And I think that's the single most important thing for families to prevent and to help remedy, mental health and substance use issues, just life in general, really. And so from an early age, so I have a 9, 11, and about to be 13-year-old, two girls and a boy. And we try to curate those conversations every single day. And so my son is at a basketball camp, and I parked in front of the house, and he comes running outside. And my wife had already briefed me that he got into a scuffle with the kid and kind of got picked on. And so we sat in the car for about 30 minutes and just talked. What did you feel? Did you feel afraid? Just open-ended questions, and then we talked about how to deal with it today. He's going back to the same kids, the same group, how to deal with it. And my hope is, if I have thousands of those, by the time he gets to leave the house, that he's ready for life, right? And he's not only having those conversations with me, he's learning to have them with other adult friends of mine, or uncles or dads that are kind of in that place. Yeah, so I think that's the crux of success in the family unit. And for our kids, we got to have trusting, healthy relationships, really led and curated by mom and dad, by somebody who is parenting that kid day in and day out.
I agree with you, but I also want to say that almost every single parent, every kid that I know that I'm friends with their parents, put their kids on some sort of medication these days. So I see this as like, yeah, we're talking about fentanyl and drug overdoses and abuse of substances, illicit substances. But in my opinion, I mean, Adderall or whatever else, ADHD. I mean, it's so prevalent, and you're putting these kids on medications. Medications, they're used to it. They're taking drugs all the time because their parents facilitated that to them. Do you think, instead of like we used to think, oh, cannabis is the gateway drug to everything? Do you think it's this prescription kind of mindset that we're in right now as parents and as doctors and as kids? It's trifecta of something's going on, my kid's not paying attention, let's give him a pill without the consideration of side effects. So you think that's contributing to what's going on with mental health these days?
100%. Hate may be a strong word, but I hate ADHD meds. Psychotropics are good, I think, for a season for stabilization. I'm a very holistic guy. Food dyes and things like that. I mean, they play a huge role in the function of the brain, and we know the science, but there's big pharma pushing it, and psychiatrists wouldn't get paid if they didn't prescribe medications, right? And so we use them internally, but it's sort of a brief intervention. And my hope is that people can regulate without them, right? I mean, I know some people have to have them, and there's a certain use case for that, but a 7-year-old on Adderall blows my mind. And we can't figure out at 24 why he's doing, meth, like he's, running the streets and missing teeth and things like that. Well, he's been on it since he's 7. So
I see it all the time. So what I was going to say is we found out that a kid from my daughter's school, when she was going, committed suicide, and
mhm.
and it happened, a couple of times in a small community. You can't see it, right? Like there's no indication that there was something going on. Um, Wanted to ask you for signs. What should the parents, what should the friends, what should everybody be looking for or doing? Because it's hidden, right? Like all these things are hidden. And is it, or I don't have the expertise to see it. Like I'm trying to be intuitive.
Sure.
Always
Yeah.
communicate with my daughter, how you doing, what's going on, but it's hard to see. Is there anything that we can look for? Any signs that we can look for?
Yeah. The three easy one are people, places, and things, right? Like um, when when people change in our community, we are kind of set that foundation, right? But when people come and go, we opened with my brother, like most important relationship in my life is gone in a minute, and I just remember 40 people standing in the front yard of this house that I lived in, to be there with me, to bring food, to do things. And so when you don't have the right people, the outcomes are going to be bad. So like we treat a lot of kids who were athletes, and it's past tense, right? My kid was on a golf scholarship or a football scholarship or a this, and then all of a sudden he's not around those people anymore. So he doesn't have coaches, he doesn't have friends, he doesn't have people cheering for him every week. Um, and so those people go away and they're traded with something, right? Those people could be virtual people online in gaming systems. Um, but that's the first thing I like to look is like, is it just a breakup? I heard a story yesterday that a guy in his mid 20s was dating a girl for like 4 months. She broke up with him and he committed suicide. All right. So an instant relationship. Those people are important. Places. We see a lot of kids who move from the East Coast to Texas, and or from the West Coast to Texas, and their whole world is different. And so that's a geographical change. Are people are these people not in the same places? Do you hibernate in your room during Thanksgiving, right? Like we hear those stories all the time. I can't get my kid come down, it's freaking Thanksgiving. So look at the people they're surrounding themselves, the places they're in, and then the things. If I were to all of a sudden stop working out, my wife would come and look at me like, "Hey, like what's wrong with you? Like that's been on your calendar since for 20 years that I've known you. Why? What are you depressed? Or so like that would be a key thing of looking at what people do on the daily and other nuances or changes that turn into like a very, very slippery slope.
Yeah. So be aware of any changes to the patterns they've been doing. Is be aware. I mean, I'm still going back to like my parents, for instance. They didn't know shit. Like they weren't aware at all. I don't
Yeah.
even know how the hell my generation even survived and got out of that because our parents didn't. Nobody asked, how are you feeling? How are you doing? Nobody asked that. And if I'm depressed in my room,
Yeah.
I'm depressed in my room. No, and my parents didn't even. Only if I'm not coming down for dinner or something like that, then there's an issue. I'm not eating what's going on. But for the most part, they didn't know, they didn't care. These days, as we said, the pendulum really swung. But was wondering what's like tactical advice. Like, what's the first thing that you tell a parent comes to you in crisis? Like, they don't know where to turn. They don't know what to do. What do you suggest? What do you tell them?
Well, really, I just try to get information, right? Because when parents are in crisis, the sky is falling, details are lacking. And so I try to just help them frame the situation, and not catastrophize it, but let's figure out what the reality is. And then I think the next thing to that is like there's hope, right? I try to just build some hope into families and just say, hey, look, like you, like when they reach out, like we got you. We have a solution. And if we don't have a solution, we know somebody across the country that's going to have a solution for you and help that. So I think those are kind of just the two things, and then we just build a relationship that helps facilitate all of those, following activities.
I mean, maybe let's take it a step before that. I'm still trying to
Okay.
think of like tangible um, scenarios that actually happen, because
Yeah.
I really want people to, I really want people to understand that you're not alone. There's hope for all of you. Whoever's listening to this, whoever's watching this, like you're not alone, and there's a framework. So, you know, I've seen this before where the parents start getting involved and the kid withdraws even more and is
Mhm.
isolated. How can we, as a community of parents, of friends, or what can we do to? There's a tipping point. What can we do to get that person? I understand when they're talking to you and they're starting to, get involved with professionals, they're already past that point. But how do you get
Yeah.
to that point to get them to say, yeah, you know what? Okay, I need some help.
Yeah, I think there's kind of two conversations, right? And I'll frame them like two are face to face, or one. The first one is like face to face conversations, and the other one is like side by side. Side by side's easy. Driver, passenger. Those are conversations that you weave into everyday activities. And those conversations, both of them, need to be open-ended. Like I don't think as a society we're good at asking questions, right? We're limited to 144 characters, and we just have to shoot this moonshot and get a bunch of likes. But it is a pot roast kind of conversation, right? You got to just let it grow and grow and grow and get used to it. You may have to get out of the car and then go inside and then pick up that conversation 20 minutes later. Um, but all three of those conversations, the issue I think is when there's that crisis moment. The kid gets kicked out of school. He ends up in the ER. Parents are like, "Oh my God, we got to do something now." Well, you drove 40,000 miles last year in the car. You had time, right? You had FaceTime, right? So that's that side by side. You take the moment for what it is. And then I think there's those face to face or knee to knee conversations where a parent um, would need to prepare. I like to tell parents to write down your 10 questions, right? Think about the 10 questions, and as you ask the questions, what feelings and responses do you think your kid's going to have? Now, retailer your question to the response that you want, right? Because if you go knee to knee and be like, I know you've been using drugs, where's it at? Not going to go well, right? And so retailer that question to, hey, like, I've seen some mood changes in you here lately. What's that all about? And so those can be healthy confrontations that are knee to knee, face to face. But parents go into those emotionally driven in seeking an immediate result when I think there needs to be some prep work, right? You go into a business interaction, you a lot of other things in the world, you got to prep. You go into an interview, you read the bios, and getting parents to do the prep work and to check their emotions at the door when they go into that knee to knee conversation is super helpful and important so the kid just doesn't react and shut down.
I mean, it's such great advice because it's exactly that prep before that's what I hear from parents all the time. Is like, you've already gone past that point, and you had all that time that you didn't do anything. Uh, what maybe this controversial subject? I don't know. I'm going to put it out there because I see it prevalently happen. Um, all of a sudden, your kid, who's a girl, says, I think I'm a boy. I want to be a boy.
Mm.
Or I'm not sure what I am yet, but it cut their hair completely, got a bunch of piercings, colored it purple. I'm all tattooed. There's no judgment of anybody. I'm just seeing, going along with what you said, behavioral changes. All of a sudden, you're walking down the street and you make a complete detour that's nothing like you've been before. Is that a sign? Is that some sort of signal that, parents need to be a lot more aware of, instead of saying, it's a phase, or yeah, we support everything. Put on a dress, and and now you're a girl, boy, whatever you want to be.
Yeah, I'm a hard and fast science guy. And I think our psychologists and therapists and the just the kind of that the clinical medical world is confusing the hell out of people. And I think we should have some hard and fast black and white, DNA, like it is what it is. And be able to, so just 2 years ago, I mean, in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Disorders, it was a disorder, right? And so we were able to write that disorder down as gender dysphoria and treat that patient underneath that code. They took it out, right? Lobbyists and the APA and big pharma and whoever, lobbied against it. They took it out because they knew this wave of genetic mutilation, was going to happen. And so, yeah, I think again, telling kids no, being what I call, like I tell our folks, like, be the metronome in these folks' lives. You have to tell them where truth is. We know from scientific, I mean, 50-year-old studies, the frontal lobe is broken until 25. So your executive functioning doesn't work, and you're ruled by the amygdala and what you feel. And when our kids are consuming on average, 6 hours of social media a day or something crazy, and that's the propaganda, what do you think they're going to choose? So,
If a parent is witnessing this, seeing that there's a slight detour, is there an action that they should take? Or is that back to that whole car conversation? Let's
yeah.
talk about this. What do you really feel? You're attracted to your women? Okay. Like, you know, I think I've had this conversation with my daughter, because I'm trying to wrap my mind around your sexual interests versus the essence of who you are. I see a complete. I don't see. I see them as complete different things. They're not. They're
Yeah.
not the same to me. You are who you are. You have chromosomes. That's it. You want to explore. Free to explore whatever you want. But if I'm going to go and participate in a false narrative that is created by, as you said, social media propaganda, whatever it is, now I'm making everything else okay. And you can do anything you want, kind of thing. And you remove sort of the guardrails of life. And now that you did that, okay, where else is it going to go? Do you see those kind of patterns, showing up in what you're doing?
Yeah, there is no one source of truth, right? Like DNA tests are incorrect, the Bible incorrect. Like take any pillar of like historical truth, and it's now thrown out the window, and you just take your crayon and write your own. So yeah, so I think that's where community and institutions and um, people who've lived life and seen the longitudinal consequences need to step in, right? Because we know depression rates, and once you start questioning your DNA, there's a quick degrade in mental health.
I wanted to ask you about, maybe I'll ask it with using myself as an example. So I came from a pretty abusive household, and I was using cannabis instead of my prescription medication for ADHD when I was a teen. I got rid of that, and that was my medicine. My parents hated it. They called the cops on me. They kicked me out. I had all this anger, and the anger came
Sure.
from the abuse and all this other stuff. And I didn't talk to my parents for years. But one of the things that I think was pivotal in my life is the role of forgiveness.
Yeah.
At some point, and I had therapy and all that stuff. There was a tipping point in my mental state when I was able to say, you're not going to take this emotional connection of self out of me. Like, all that went away when I was able to forgive and say, there's nothing I can do about what happened. Let's build a new relationship going forward. And it was like a switch. It was like almost an immediate switch of my feeling. I don't have any animosity anymore. And what am I doing? I was hurting myself all that time. What is the role of that forgiveness, and how do you get somebody to that point where maybe they were abused, maybe they were bullied, maybe they have all this anger and hurt and loss of control, all these things? How do you get them past that so they can start, healing? Can't heal with you're constantly angry, I think.
I 100% agree. Lots of brain flares going on, right? So page 64 in the AA Big Book, right, says resentment's the number one offender. Steps 1, 2, and 3 are about kind of this relationship with a higher power. Step 4 says I make a fearless moral inventory. And it's columnized, and it's like, who was it? What did they do to me? And then what was my involvement in that? And when I worked with adults, it was like, I hate my effing ex-wife. Like, she's a, da, 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 da. And then what was mine? Oh, I married her. Oh, I spent 18 years with her. Oh, like my involvement in that. Right. And so, I have this like working definition that I've picked up along the way is like, forgiveness is me forfeiting my right to be angry at you. So I'm literally giving up this, agreement with self to hold you hostage, that you don't even know you're being held hostage, right? I love all those AA isms, I'm drinking poison thinking it's going to hurt you, and, all of those things that go along. And so I think it's twofold. It's helping people understand what unforgiveness looks like, because a lot of people will just disassociate, right? They'll take the instance and they'll break the emotional side away from, oh, it doesn't bother me. Oh, it didn't bother me, right? But we all see that you're pissed. We all see that you walk into every room, and if somebody says something wrong, you're going to cut their head off. And we're like, dude, like, he didn't deserve that, or she didn't deserve that. Where's that anger coming from? Oh, I'm not angry, right? And so that process of forgiveness, and I like the just writing it down and going through, okay, mom, dad, brother, sister, that principal in the 3rd grade, like lady at the grocery store, like whatever it may be, and going, okay, I'm choosing right now to forfeit my right to be angry at that person. And like you said, man, you just watch the scales come off of people. I've seen everything from people with crippling back pain walk out of a therapy session healed, walking straight up without their cane. And, so it's amazing to see the biological, sociological, psychological effects of what unforgiveness does.
Yeah, it's just such a mind-body connection to that. I'm so glad that you brought up this accountability, because I hear too many people pointing fingers at everything and everyone else. They did that. They did that. We always play our own role in that. So, some way having to pause, teens and adults both having to pause and say, I've contributed to this as well. Even if it's 5% and they're responsible for 95, I still own my 5%. And I think that's an area where lack of accountability is prevalent. I mean, I talk to people, I talk to young people all the time, and it's always somebody else. There's very little accountability. And, I think you're right. It's having these conversations with your kids to get them to understand. Ask them, what did you do to contribute to it?
Yeah.
You walk through the door. That's part of it. You were there. It's them, but you showed up there. You hang out, like that kind of thing. I think is extremely important. What's the one thing you wish that every parent, like of a struggling teen, knew right now? What do you think that they should know if they're listening to this action or message? Or
You're not alone. The one reason I wrote the book was to give 15 or so stories of people from a broad spectrum, from a broad background. I mean, I've had patients, their private plane fly in, and then Rolls Royce pick them up and drop them off, like all the way to mom with 7 kids in a 97 Suburban. Like we've had this vast array of kids. No, it's an equal opportunity offender, and man, you're just not alone. Like you're not alone, and it's never too late.
Yeah, such a good message. I really want people to resonate with this because we're in an epidemic. It's very clear. I see it. I mean, you see it professionally all the time. I see it in my periphery, but it's an epidemic of mental health crisis that leads to substance, whatever that substance is.
Yeah.
By the way, could be anything. Could be sex. Could be drugs. Could be any other thing.
Yeah.
Food. Whatever that is that you're trying to get. As you just mentioned, that there's that mind-body connection, and I see this all the time. And I see like even kids are maybe a little bit overweight, and they're subsidizing for their lack with food. They're looking in the mirror, seeing I look like I'm fat. Now they're depressed. What makes me feel better? That food, dopamine, and on this hamster wheel of stuff. So, I mean, we as parents, we really need to be a lot more aware, have these conversations with our kids, and even as adults, have the conversation with your friend who's a parent of a kid. Let them know that maybe there's something. You don't have to do what I do, but at least have a conversation with your kid. And if you see them creating behavior that is different than they've been doing for the last several years, all of a sudden something, awareness, be aware and talk to people, talk to your friends. It's not something that you have to isolate. It's not embarrassing. Nobody's going to think less of you. Just, you have a community. You're part of that community. You have a community that you can reach out to and ask for help. So it's extremely important. And I'm really grateful that you're really doing this. I don't know if you had anything else. I wasn't asking a question.
Because it made me think of something, and because, communities, there's a second part maybe to that call is like, yes, parents, you're not alone, but like communities, like if you're the uncle and you show up and you know what high looks like, but mom and dad don't know what high looks like, grab that kid by the shirt collar, take him out back and have a conversation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. Yeah. There's that uncle too, right? But kind of imploring communities to like, don't sit on your hands, right? Because you could be the one person that kid listens to instead of the mom and dad, right? It's 9 times out of 10, it's somebody outside of the family system that starts the intervention.
Yeah, 100%. So glad you mentioned that too, because for me, it was like my uncle was like, that was my cool uncle that we could drink a beer together when I was 16 and watch the fight and have a conversation like a pal. And I would trust him more than I would with my parents. So really, really good point. Okay. Just to shift focus a little bit, I have some music related questions.
Okay.
That's not my guess. If you remember, what was the very first concert that you attended?
Oh, it was a country band. It was called Alabama,
Yeah.
and it was at Six Flags in Arlington. I was like 5 years old.
Very cool.
I remember it being so loud. I just sitting down and now I hear those songs and I'm like, yeah, I was there.
What was the last concert you attended?
Ooh, man, I do all these like little festivals and stuff now instead of like big concerts. When was it? I have no idea. I went to the Red Rocks a couple years ago. I like some bluegrass stuff. Victor Wooten was playing with the Denver Orchestra, and they did this whole thing at the Red Rocks in Denver area. So that one sticks out.
Very cool. All right. So another music related question. For the next year, you can only listen to 5 albums. You don't have to remember the
Oh
name of the
gosh,
album. You can just say, whatever, Alabama or whatever the artist is. What will be those five?
five. Okay, this one's gonna be real cliche, but I'm a Strat and blues player, so um, I like John Mayer because he just steals all the licks from the greats, and so I would pick John Mayer. Um, man, this is a good one. You got Guns N' Roses behind you, so I'm gonna pick something from that genre. And since it's there, I'm just gonna go with it. I'm gonna listen to this guy named Adam Miller,
Uh,
kind of a jazz. So kind of has that Herbie Hancock kind of jazz thing going. Um, I'm gonna throw one in there because I've played in a church worship band for almost 2 decades. Um, I don't know. I'll just throw the whole genre in there, like church worship music, and then Jimmy Buffett, just to chill out. So it's a very eclectic.
I love it, man. That's good. That's a great list. All right. So final question. Please describe what your room looked like growing up.
Oh wow, this is a good question. Like a Rochester ink blot test here going on. Okay, so I had a wooden frame bed that my dad made. It was 2x6s, twin mattress up against the wall, and then sort of flanking it was uh, I had this console stereo kind of thing. It was like this, veneer wood cabinet, and it had two giant speakers in it with a turntable and 8 track. Um, so that was kind of like my nightstand slash music thing. And then I had a desk with a tiny TV on it, and then a closet.
Anything on the walls, any art, any posters, anything that stands out that you can
Yeah, absolutely. I had so above my bed, it had 3 walls, and then one had a big window in it, and it was like blue drapes, and they had like these like little almost polka dot kind of things on it. But on the wall was baseballs, trophies, tickets. Like it was just sports memorabilia on about a 10-foot wall, and then I had my car posters and Michael Jordan and things on another wall.
very cool. Awesome. Where can people find out more, engage with you? Where can they buy your book? Anything else that you want to share?
Yeah, My Kid, My Crisis is on Amazon. My Kid, My Crisis, Austin Davis. And then really like all the body of information that I've written and produced, blogs and all that kind of stuff is on clearforkacademy.com. My email's on there. The phone number, rings to our assessment department and things like that. So I'm literally a couple of clicks away. My team knows they can give out my email and phone number if necessary. So very easy to reach.
And for my audience, thank you so much for listening. As always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and appreciate you buying my book, Making Cannabis Personal, also available on Amazon or wherever you get books. Continue, please give me feedback. 5 stars are great, but if it's less, we'll work on getting better. But Austin, I really want to thank you. I think you're doing incredible work. It's so necessary and required to do this. Like I said, I see it firsthand. We are in this crisis, and just awareness, just be aware, communication, and then have a resource like yourself to reach out to. I think it's a beautiful thing. So thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you so much for letting me join you today.
Appreciate it. Hey, everyone. So does anybody know what greening out means? I've been the recipient of so many calls over the years of people greening out. That means they took too much THC and had an adverse reaction. So I always recommend other things, but nothing really concrete. Now I can. There's a solution. It is called Antidose. Antidose.com is quick. It's rapid. It works immediately, safe, and effective. So I love my props. If you are toasty or you are burnt, that's the difference. Now, I also love the 1 gummy, 2 gummy, 3 gummy floor. So just be aware, very narrow therapeutic window. You know exactly what you can take now if you've taken too much. Once again, it's Antidose at antidose.com. Get yours today. Hey everyone, thank you for watching and listening. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, share this episode, and hit that bell. Like, comment. I so appreciate that. And check me out on social under Len May or Len May DNA. Find out more on LinkedIn or lenmaycoaching.com. And remember, everything is personal.